Let me tell you something that might rattle you a bit. Being too available is silently destroying your life. Every time you say yes when you mean no, every time you respond immediately out of obligation, you're teaching people that your time, your energy, and even your peace are up for grabs. And here's the counterintuitive part. The more available you are, the less people value you. We've been sold this lie that being always accessible makes us more lovable, more reliable, more good. But the truth? It just makes us more exhausted, resentful, and honestly, invisible. People stop appreciating your presence because they assume it'll always be there. It's like leaving your favorite song on repeat. After a while, you don't even hear it anymore. The solution isn't to become cold or detached, but to understand the power of pulling back. Setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's survival. Imagine waking up tomorrow with more peace, more control over your time, and relationships that actually feel balanced. Sounds good, right? That's what happens when you stop being excessively available and start being intentionally present. In this video, I'm going to walk you through how your constant availability is draining you, and how you can shift into a life that feels freer, calmer, and way more fulfilling. Spoiler alert, it's simpler than you think, but it requires a bold choice. Are you ready to make it? Because once you see what I'm about to show you, you can't unsee it. And honestly, you won't want to. There comes a moment when you realize that constantly explaining yourself, over-accommodating others, or softening who you are just to make people comfortable, it's exhausting. You stop and ask, why am I doing this? The truth is, you've probably been taught that being agreeable makes you lovable. But here's the thing, it only makes you exhausted. So you start pulling back, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. First, this shift feels awkward. People might say you're becoming cold or distant. But let me tell you something I've learned the hard way. Clarity is often mistaken for coldness by those who benefited from your confusion. When you move from being a people-pleaser to someone with clear boundaries, it unsettles people who were used to accessing you without limits. That's not your burden to carry. You realize that living authentically means you stop bending yourself into shapes that don't fit. You no longer laugh at jokes that hurt you or agree to things just to keep the peace. Instead, you start choosing you, your comfort, your truth, your energy. And guess what? That's not selfish. That's survival. Think about the last time you said yes when you really wanted to say no. How did that feel? Exactly. Let me give you a simple practice. Next time someone asks you to do something, pause for 5 seconds before answering. Feel what your body says. Is it a yes? Or are you about to perform again? That pause, it changes everything. It shifts you from reacting automatically to responding consciously. And trust me, people respect that pause even if they don't say it out loud. The biggest internal shift is that you no longer seek external validation. You stop needing people to clap for your boundaries. It's like finally realizing that applause doesn't make your decisions more valid. You make them valid by standing behind them. The day you decide to stop performing for others is the day you start performing for yourself. And that's the most honest performance you'll ever give. But here's the fascinating part. When you stop over-explaining, when you stop being so easily available, something curious happens in your relationships. People start reacting in ways you didn't expect. And that's where the real learning begins. When you stop being as available, people get confused and fast. They scramble, trying to regain the easy access they used to have. You'll notice them reaching out more, asking if everything's okay, maybe even accusing you of being different. And you know what? They're right. You are different. You've stopped being their emotional crutch, and that can feel threatening to those who relied on your constant presence. But here's the beauty of it. You don't need to make a grand announcement or post a cryptic message online about cutting people off. Nope. Silence does the job for you. It's amazing how powerful not responding can be. Not as a game, not as revenge, but as a declaration of your new boundaries. Silence says, I'm no longer available for what drains me. Simple, clean, and undeniably effective. People will test you, though. They'll send those, hey, haven't heard from you texts, or try to guilt you back into the old dynamics. Don't be surprised by that. It's just their way of grappling with the change. Your job isn't to manage their reactions, but to stay steady in your truth. Think of it like setting up a fence. You don't need to explain to your neighbor why it's there. It's just there to protect your space. You'll also start noticing something else. How different your interactions feel now that you've drawn emotional boundaries. Conversations shift. Some people naturally fall away while others step up, respecting your space in ways they never did before. It's not about losing people. It's about filtering out those who never valued your presence in the first place. Painful? Sometimes. Necessary? Always. Let me give you a real-life tip. When someone reaches out after your silence, resist the urge to over-explain. A simple, "I've been focusing on myself lately," is enough. You don't owe anyone a detailed report of your emotional state. That alone can save you so much energy. Remember, your peace doesn't require permission or approval. And as you get more comfortable with this, you'll realize something profound. Your emotional boundaries aren't just shaping how others treat you, they're reshaping how you treat yourself. And that sets the stage for an even deeper transformation. You know what's really empowering? Not reacting. Not because you're playing some manipulative game, but because you've finally realized that your energy is too precious to waste on things that don't deserve it. You stop jumping to respond, stop defending yourself, and stop explaining choices that only you need to understand. That stillness, it's your new strength. It's like discovering a secret superpower you didn't know you had. When you step out of roles that demanded constant validation, everything shifts. You're no longer the fixer, the pleaser, or the one who always smooths things over. That role might have made you feel useful before, but let's be honest, it left you drained. Now, instead of asking, "How can I make them happy?" you're asking, "Does this make me happy?" That question alone can change the entire trajectory of your life. Breaking free from emotional manipulation is liberating beyond words. When someone tries to guilt you or pull you back into old dynamics, you don't even flinch. You see it for what it is, a tactic to regain control over you. And you simply don't engage. Not because you're heartless, but because you've learned to recognize manipulation wrapped in concern. That awareness protects you like armor. Here's something practical. Next time you feel tempted to explain your silence or absence, pause and ask yourself, is this about me or about making them comfortable? 9 times out of 10, it's about the latter. Choose you. Choosing yourself might feel foreign at first, but it gets easier. And with each choice, you reclaim more of your personal power. You start noticing how much lighter you feel when you're no longer tangled in emotional webs. Conversations are more genuine, your relationships are more balanced, and you've got more space, mentally and emotionally, to invest in what truly matters. That could be your passions, your health, your creativity. It's like finally having room to breathe. And with that newfound clarity and strength, you naturally move towards something even more profound. Emotional growth and the kind of clarity that brings lasting peace. Emotional growth sneaks up on you, often in the quietest moments. One day, you realize that you no longer panic when someone pulls away or goes silent. Instead of spiraling with questions like, "Did I do something wrong?" you embrace the space. You start to see silence as a gift, an opportunity to check in with yourself rather than obsess over someone else's absence. That's real progress, and trust me, it feels amazing. Over time, you stop overthinking every interaction. You're not reading into text message delays or tone shifts anymore. Why? Because you've anchored your self-worth within. Your peace is no longer something you hunt for in others' approval. It's something you protect fiercely. That shift means you can finally exhale, knowing that you don't have to prove your worth to anyone. It was never up for debate. Let me give you an example. Imagine you text a friend, and they don't reply for a few days. The old you might have spiraled, replayed every word you said. The new you? You acknowledge it, but you don't let it define your mood or self-esteem. You remind yourself, people are busy. Their silence doesn't mean I'm unworthy. That mindset frees up so much emotional bandwidth for things that actually matter. You also stop trying to manage or guide other people's behavior. You let them show you who they are without interference, without coaching them into being better for you. It's such a relief to realize that your role isn't to be everyone's emotional compass. You watch how they act, how they communicate, and you make decisions based on reality, not potential. That's maturity in action. This clarity allows you to navigate relationships with more ease. You don't chase, you don't beg, and you don't overextend. Instead, you observe, you assess, and you decide. Feels like you've stepped out of the fog and into clear air. That clarity makes everything sharper. Your boundaries, your expectations, your peace. It's the kind of upgrade no one talks about, but everyone needs. And as you continue to grow in this clarity, something else becomes crystal clear. Not everyone should have access to you, and that realization will completely change the way you value your presence. At some point, you realize that when you make yourself too available, people start to take you for granted. As human nature, we tend to undervalue what's always within reach. But here's the truth. Your presence, your time, your emotional energy, they're valuable. Not because you say they are, but because they are finite. And anything finite is precious. So you stop offering unrestricted access, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. You begin to notice how much your availability has shaped your relationships. Maybe you've always been the person who picks up on the first ring, who responds to texts instantly, who says yes before even thinking about what you want. But now you pause, you assess, you decide if this request or this conversation is worth your energy. That simple pause reaffirms something essential. You matter. This shift is not about becoming aloof or playing hard to get. It's about embodying quiet confidence. You know your worth without having to announce it. Think about a luxury brand. They don't need billboards on every corner to remind people of their value. They just are. That's you now. You're no longer in the business of convincing anyone that your presence is a privilege. You live it, and others either respect it or they don't. Here's a practical move you can make. Set specific times to check your messages instead of being available 24/7. For instance, choose 2 blocks in your day when you respond to people, and outside of that, focus on your life. This small boundary sends a clear signal. I'm accessible, but not at the cost of my peace. It's a powerful habit that not only protects your energy but teaches others how to engage with you respectfully. Over time, you'll feel the incredible difference between seeking validation and embodying confidence. When you stop needing constant affirmation, you create space for more meaningful connections and experiences. It's not about isolating yourself. It's about curating your interactions so they nourish you instead of depleting you. That's when your life starts to feel lighter, more intentional, more yours. And naturally, with this newfound sense of value, you realize the importance of maintaining boundaries and raising your standards, not as a strategy to appear unavailable, but as a lifestyle that safeguards your peace. One of the most transformative lessons you'll learn is this: you don't need to respond to everything. Not every text, not every call, not every emotional plea deserves your immediate attention. And that doesn't make you rude or detached. It makes you discerning. The truth is, when you say yes to everything, you're really saying no to your own peace. So, you begin choosing your responses carefully, based on what aligns with your well-being. Becoming unattainable isn't about playing games or making people chase you. That's childish. Instead, it's about elevating your standards and refusing to entertain anything that doesn't meet them. It's about realizing that access to you is a privilege, not a right. Think of it like a VIP event. Not everyone gets in just because they know you. Your energy is sacred, and not everyone has earned the right to share in it. Protecting your personal peace requires discipline. It means allowing yourself to rest without guilt, to unplug without explaining, and to say no without 1,000 justifications. Here's a practical example. When you finish your workday, put your phone on Do Not Disturb. Create that space where you exist for yourself, not for the world's demands. It might feel strange at first, but soon you'll notice how much calmer you feel. Over time, these boundaries become second nature. You stop over-explaining your absences, stop apologizing for your need to recharge, and stop compromising your standards for temporary comfort. You learn to sit comfortably in your solitude, knowing that those who truly value you will respect your boundaries, and those who don't, well, they were never for you anyway. You also recognize that these boundaries are not walls to keep everyone out but filters to let the right ones in. You start attracting people who match your energy, who respect your time, and who appreciate your authenticity. That shift alone makes your relationships more fulfilling and far less draining. It's a win all around. And as your boundaries strengthen and your standards rise, you begin to evaluate your relationships through an entirely new lens, not based on history or obligation, but on how they make you feel in your body and soul. You start noticing something subtle but powerful. Your body always tells the truth, even when your mind tries to make excuses. Pay attention to how you feel around certain people. Do you feel relaxed and light, or tense and drained? That tension in your shoulders or that knot in your stomach isn't random. It's your intuition signaling misalignment. Learning to listen to those signals changes everything about how you approach relationships. Instead of clinging to connections based on shared history, you begin evaluating them based on how they make you feel now. Longevity doesn't equal compatibility. Just because someone's been in your life for years doesn't mean they deserve a front row seat forever. It's not about being cold or ruthless. It's about honoring your own well-being. Relationships should add to your life, not weigh it down like a backpack full of bricks. A practical thing you can do is take inventory of your relationships. Literally write down the names of people you spend the most time with, and next to each, jot down how they make you feel. Energized? Drained? Supported? Dismissed? That simple exercise can reveal more about your relational health than any conversation. It also gives you the clarity to adjust your emotional investments. Sometimes redefining relationships means letting go of those that require you to betray yourself, where you feel like you're shrinking, pretending, or walking on eggshells just to keep the peace. And yes, that's hard. But it's even harder to keep betraying yourself just to maintain a connection that no longer fits who you're becoming. Self-betrayal is far more painful than letting someone go. You come to realize that your relationships are a reflection of how you value yourself. The higher your self-worth, the higher your standards for who gets access to you. It becomes less about being liked and more about being respected. And that respect, it starts with you respecting your own needs, boundaries, and emotional safety above all else. With this new lens, you step into a life where your relationships are chosen, not just inherited or maintained out of habit. And from there, something even more beautiful happens. You stop seeking closure or apologies to find peace, because you've already found it within yourself. Living authentically means you stop waiting for someone to say, "I'm sorry," or give you closure so you can move on. You realize that closure isn't something others give you. It's something you give yourself. And once you embrace that, you're free. Free from waiting, free from needing explanations, free from the emotional limbo that kept you stuck. You simply accept what is and choose your peace over unresolved conversations. You also stop moving out of desperation, trying to force connections, opportunities, or outcomes just to feel secure. Instead, you move with direction, with intention. You act because it aligns with your values, not because you're afraid of being alone or left behind. That shift, from desperation to direction, makes your decisions clearer and your life simpler. You no longer feel like you're chasing something just to fill a void. Solitude becomes a sanctuary, not a punishment. You start enjoying your own company in a way that might have felt impossible before. Whether it's taking yourself out to dinner, traveling alone, or simply spending an evening without your phone buzzing, you embrace the quiet. You realize that being alone doesn't mean being lonely. It means being free to be fully yourself without compromise or performance. Another thing that changes is your tolerance for surface-level connections. Small talk and shallow relationships just don't appeal to you anymore. You crave depth, authenticity, and mutual respect. So you naturally gravitate toward people who meet you there and distance yourself from those who don't. This isn't about arrogance. It's about alignment. Your time and energy are too precious for anything less than real. Here's something practical. The next time you meet someone new, ask yourself, can I be fully myself with this person? If the answer is no, consider whether that relationship is worth pursuing. Life's too short to keep parts of yourself hidden just to make others comfortable. Authentic living demands that you show up as you are, flaws and all, and trust that the right people will accept you. And as you keep embracing this authenticity, you start noticing an even deeper sense of peace. A peace that no longer depends on understanding or validation from others, but from living fully aligned with your own truth. The most profound freedom you'll ever experience comes when you let go of the need for others to understand or validate you. You stop explaining your choices, stop justifying your boundaries, and stop seeking approval for the life you've chosen to live. That mental and emotional release is priceless. Suddenly, you're no longer burdened by the weight of other people's expectations, and you start moving through life with a quiet, unshakable confidence. Living in alignment with your personal values becomes your compass. No longer do you feel pulled in a dozen directions by what society says you should be doing. Instead, you wake up each day asking, what feels right for me? And that question guides your actions more than any external advice ever could. It's not about rebellion. It's about authenticity, living in a way that makes your life feel like it's truly yours. You also become far more intentional about the kind of energy you allow into your life. Draining relationships, toxic work environments, meaningless obligations, they all start to fall away naturally. Not because you're avoiding life's challenges, but because you've finally understood that your energy is your responsibility. You choose to invest it in what sustains you, relationships that nourish, work that fulfills, and habits that elevate. Here's a practical tip. Every month, take some time to assess what's draining you and what's sustaining you. Write it down. Then, make conscious decisions to reduce the drains and amplify the sustainers. It could be as simple as spending more time in nature, picking up a creative hobby, or limiting time with people who consistently deplete your energy. These small shifts accumulate into a life that feels lighter and more aligned. And with this new foundation of freedom and peace, you realize that you don't need to strive, perform, or convince anymore. You just live. You attract people and opportunities that resonate with who you truly are, not who you've pretended to be. Life becomes simpler, deeper, and more fulfilling, all because you dared to let go of what no longer served you. Now, having explored all of this, you might be wondering, how do you pull all these insights together and actually start living this way? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dive into next, starting with how this whole conversation ties back to one powerful truth. So now the question is, what are you going to do with all this? Will you keep overextending yourself, answering every message like it's an emergency, saying yes just to avoid discomfort? Or are you finally ready to live from a place of calm, clarity, and power? Listen, your peace is priceless, and you've been giving it away like it's on clearance. That has to stop. If this message hit home, then it's time to start applying it. Begin small. Set one boundary today. Maybe it's a pause before replying to a text. Maybe it's saying no without explaining why. But do something. Your life won't change with ideas alone. It changes with action. So, what's one thing you'll do today to take back your time and energy? Let me know in the comments. Seriously, I want to hear it. And hey, if this video helped shift something in you, don't just keep it to yourself. Share it. Someone out there is drowning in overavailability and doesn't even realize it yet. Be the friend who sends the wake-up call. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because we're diving even deeper into these truths, and trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Still feeling that fire? Then go ahead and watch this next video right here. It'll take everything you just learned and help you apply it in ways you didn't even think were possible.